I told you I wanted to be on Broadway tonight.
Hey, Broadway is lit. Carrying the goalpost down there. They actually threw it into the river later after defeating #1 Alabama. That's crazy. An unbelievable night in college football. First time they've ever beat an AP #1 team. Here's a look at their wins versus AP top 10 ranked teams. So this one, of course, is the creme de la creme. Their last big-time win was in 2007, 17 years ago, against then #6 South Carolina. They won that one 17-6. Then you have to go all the way back to 1937 against #6 LSU when they won 7-6. Time now to welcome in CBS Sports football analyst and two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and CBS Sports college football writer Richard Johnson. And gentlemen, Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, ending a 23-game losing streak to Bama. They're now in a position with all this momentum. How impressive of a win was this for them, Richard, knowing that this is a win that can really lead to a changing of the culture?
Yeah, I mean, biggest win in school history, easily. We talked about this Vanderbilt program as a program that is quite literally under construction. Their stadium is quite literally under construction while this game is going on. I don't know if any of the field rushing got in the way of that or got inhibited with that. They field rushed on an active construction site. But this Vanderbilt team, just the proof of concept to be able to, when you get in the building tomorrow, point at the fact that all your work has paid off in the biggest way. Again, I cannot stress this enough. That was no fluke today. I understand they got a pick six early to help them jump out to a 2-score lead, but the rest of it was a football team that out-executed the #1 team in the country, B-Mac.
No question. And when you look at everything that was at stake for Vandy and for Alabama, one of the more impressive wins in the season thus far for Alabama. And then look at Vandy trying to figure things out. You know, they've been a bit inconsistent, but they put all their chips in the middle of the table and say, you know what, we're going to bring it home. And they brought it home. Just the belief is something that was very, very surprising for me, and the way they executed. And then the second half is where we really started to see a surge from Alabama. And we all sat here and we said it was only a matter of time. Vandy, they're on borrowed time. Luckily enough for the players, they didn't listen to the elevator music because we were given elevator music. They were like, no, we're going to find a way to make a play, and somebody will make a play. When Vandy made a play, Alabama came back and made a play. And then lastly, it was like, you know what? We cannot allow our defense to trot back on the football field. Offensively, let's get the first downs. Let's get the necessary yards to be able to keep Jalen Milroe on the sideline. Bama could not get a stop. So kudos to Coach and his entire staff and all the players that believe. And they have a reason to party. And I would be okay if they just cancel classes on Monday.
But I'd be for it. For me, what does Vanderbilt take from this moving forward, right? Clearly, Alabama was reading their own press clippings in the last week and were not ready to play when they showed up in Nashville this afternoon. Vandy, now you got a Kentucky team that gave Georgia everything they wanted a few weeks ago and then beat Ole Miss last week. So if you play Kentucky and you're reading your press clippings this week and you think you're all that in a bag of chips, Kentucky's going to give you a little something next week. So you can't let this result beat you next week.
Yeah, you have to flush it down the toilet. It was great. As great as it was, say, short-term memory, we're on to Kentucky, and we have to play like our lives are on the line. Now, as much of a winner as Vanderbilt was, you got to give credit to some other winners in this Saturday, or on this Saturday. Who else was the biggest winner for you, B-Mac?
For me, I got to go to an individual that has been balling the entire year. And that said individual is Ashton Jeanty. Listen, if you haven't watched him play, please turn on a YouTube clipping or whatever the case may be. Every run is like a highlight reel for Ashton. Once again tonight, 13 attempts. He had a light night. Didn't even play the entire ball game, only a half. 186 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged a first down and a half. Basically, 14 yards per carry. This is a guy that has been balling. Look what he's done every game this season. And I don't want to hear the naysayers. Oh, well, it's against Georgia State, Portland State, Washington State, Utah State. Look what he gave Oregon. He almost beat Oregon by himself. Every time he steps on the football field, that is the guy that is circled. That is the guy you have to find a way to efface out of the game plan. And no one has been able to do so. And when you look at what just happened in Tennessee and Nashville, when you talk about the upset with Vandy and Alabama, Jalen Milroe was the front runner for most in regards to the Heisman Award. You guys have to put some respect on Ashton Genty's name, not just as in running back, but as a potential legit Heisman candidate. And I would be okay in saying if he was the best, if he had the best odds right now, I'm okay with that because he's more than deserving of having that luxury.
For me, my biggest winner is in College Station. Texas A&M came down to the wire on who was going to start at quarterback today. They went with Connor Wigman. I would say they made the right choice. I think what Texas A&M was able to do, particularly on defense, Mike Elko is a defensive head coach. They lost some guys to the transfer portal, but they still have some very, very highly touted recruits over the last few years that Jimbo Fisher's staff was able to put on the field. And Elko has taken that defensive unit and he deployed them today against Missouri and absolutely stymied them. Missouri had the saddest field goal you will ever see in college football to get to double digits at the end of this game when the result was very much not in doubt. So A&M, for me, easily my biggest winner because of how they came out and shut down Missouri. I mean, there's no hope.
No hope whatsoever, and it's one of those things where you expected a close contest, a competitive battle, but no. From start to finish, like you said, they owned the line of scrimmage and they were the better team on Saturday. So those are the winners, right? We got to talk about losers because there are losers every week in college football. Who's your biggest loser, B-Mac?
Well, the team we've been talking about all night, Alabama. Right? No one thought Alabama would have an undefeated season based on how college football has changed when it comes to the realignment. We felt like a loss would surface at some point in time. Well, no one thought the loss would happen tonight against Vandy, a team they've dominated against, right? Week in and week out. Anytime they played against Vandy, it was almost like a guaranteed win. Alabama, they're my biggest loser, and here's why. I talked about the upset to Vandy tonight. But the thing about that upset, you look at what they have going the rest of the way, right? The more notable names. They got South Carolina coming up. They travel to Tennessee, Mizzou, travel to LSU, night game, travel to Oklahoma, and then Auburn, right? So if they don't get their act back in line, they may have another loss or so coming down the pipe. And if that's the case, remember, viewers, because of the realignment in conference play, there are no more, the divisions are thrown out of the window. It's not like you can have a few losses and still be the best team in your division and get a trip to Atlanta. No, the top two teams in the SEC will get a trip to Atlanta. And I believe the top two teams in the SEC, win or lose, will get a seat in the playoffs. So for Alabama, you lost a prime opportunity just to continue to stack another dub on another dub, because as you get into the thick of your schedule, you're going to face against teams that are better than Vandy. And their environment, that atmosphere is going to be more electric than what you saw today in Nashville. And the last thing I'll say in regards to this conference in the SEC, A&M, 3-0. Texas, 1-0. LSU, 1-0. Every other team in the SEC, they have a conference loss. So think about that traffic jam of like teams that already have a loss in their column in conference play. Currently, because of what happened in Nashville, Alabama, they're sitting in traffic, can't go anywhere. They're right there in the midst of that traffic jam.
My biggest loser, I'm going to go down the road to Birmingham.
Okay.
UAB gets absolutely dump trucked 71-20 by Tulane on this day. They had interim head coach Bryant Vincent leading their program after Bill Clark retired. And they said, no, Bryant, you won't get the full-time job. We're going to hire Trent Dilfer. How's that going for you? Because they just got absolutely shellacked by the Green Wave on this day. And all Brian Vincent is doing at ULM, one of the most moribund programs in all of FBS, he's got them 3-1. They just took down James Madison today, 21-19. Buyer's remorse, anybody?
A lot of buyer's remorse. Listen, if there's too much to talk about with that conversation, and we don't have enough time because, yeah, what's going down at UAB is really hard to watch. And it's a very bad day to not only be a UAB fan, a player, a coach, but bad day to be a top 12 team as you look at the notable Saturday top 12 results. Yeah, Missouri down, Michigan lost, USC lost, Tennessee, and we still have so many more weeks of college football where there could be even more unpredictable results.
Just another Saturday, right?
Just another Saturday, Richard. Richard Johnson, B-Mac, it's always a pleasure talking to y'all.